First things first, I didn't shave my head for this review or for some just super commitment to a thumbnail image. I partnered with St. Baldrick's, and what they do is they raise funds for childhood cancer research. And so I was part of a fundraiser. I then, raised funds, got my head shaved, and here we go. Hint, hint, it's not too late to donate. There's a link in the description. Now let's go on with the review. While it may look like Fault in Our Stars 2, 5 Feet Apart is definitely its own movie. Haley Lou Richardson and Cole Sprouse star as teenagers with cystic fibrosis, or CF, and what they're doing is they are in a hospital for treatment, and they just have to stay there for quite a while because cystic fibrosis, what I learned in the film, is that it is just this nasty lung disease, and it is terminal. And what happens is, they produce a lot more phlegm than anybody else, and so they're drowning in it, and they have to cough it up. And while they're not necessarily impacted as much by you and I if we don't have cystic fibrosis, somebody else with CF cannot be within 6 feet of somebody else with CF because the strains that they have or the infections that they have or whatever it is wreak havoc on each other. And so it's a very lonely existence for these poor kids that have to go through this because they're not able to reach out and touch somebody that they spend a lot of time with half the time. I mean, when they're in these hospitals, they get to know all these people because the other people have cystic fibrosis, and so they're going through the same treatments. Haley Lou Richardson is Stella, and she is in the hospital for her regular maintenance and what she calls a tune-up. And there she encounters Will, who's played by Cole Sprouse. And they form kind of a friendship, but it's kind of like oil and water at the beginning. But as they spend more time together, they get to know each other, and just a friendship develops, and then it becomes into a romance. This is a familiar story, and it does seem a bit tired, but Richardson has great charisma, and she does a really good job on screen. And so does Cole Sprouse. He brings this snarkiness to it, but also some emotion and some heart as well. Moises Arias is also in this, and he is a kid with CF as well. And he just has this warmth and this passion that he conveys with his eyes that is just kind of infectious, and he's really fun to watch, and he's super likable when he's on screen. This is a romance, so we see some of the same setups. Ooh, that's a lot of S's, isn't it? But you know what? It works for me. It's not Oscar worthy, but it does bring some drama, a little bit of tension, and some of those tug at your heart feels. The camera work is really intimate at times. Now, sometimes it's a little shaky, but overall it's not distracting, and it's not always shaky, but just the director knew at what points to get in people's faces or to just have some really great shots and frame them in a way that really brought us into the character and put us right there with them. And then knew when to also back up and to give us some depth and some breadth to what was going on, especially when we needed to see the characters apart from each other. Now, I did tear up at this, but it's not one of those ugly cry tear jerkers. So if you brought a couple of tissues, you'd be totally okay. One of the things that I like about this film is that the director and the actors spent time with a cystic fibrosis foundation. That way they could be as accurate as possible when portraying not only the patients, but the caregivers and the care and treatment as well. So I thought that was really good that they were doing their best to be as accurate and just stick to exactly how it would be. Now, I'm sure that they didn't get every single thing right, but the willingness to learn, the willingness to see what it is and how it works, so that they could really, in part, it's an education for anybody that has not been affected by cystic fibrosis. Now, with cystic fibrosis and not being able to be within 6 feet of another patient with CF, you kind of wonder, well, why 5 feet apart then is the title? They do explain that, and I really like how the filmmakers did that, and the story behind where you get 5 feet apart. All in all, I did enjoy the film and the performances. I also like that I got to learn a little bit more about cystic fibrosis. There's no sex, nudity, or violence, but there is some profanity. I give 5 Feet Apart 3 out of 5 couches. Now, this may seem a little morbid, but what is a good movie that deals with terminal illness? Bonus points if it's a positive or a triumphant story versus, just a downer of a story. Either way, though, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to know some suggestions. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for catching with me.